McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions, real talk radio. The multi-award-winning Niall Boylan Show.
Hi, how are you?
Now, last week we saw people around the world, I suppose, mourn the loss of the Titanic submersible implosion victims, one of whom, by the way, had a very strong Cork connection. And I didn't know that. So there was a Cork connection there.
Yeah, not many people do. So that's Paul Henry Nargilay. So he did an interview with Ellie O'Byrne from the Irish Examiner a few years back, and it surfaced of late because he actually had a grandson in primary school, or has a grandson in primary school in Cork, in Educate Together. I'm not sure. He might have moved on to secondary school in the meantime. I'm not sure how old he is, but I've seen so much about the submersibles, in the last week, in the technical side of things, but there wasn't much eulogizing.
No.
And it's just nice to see to look at it from a different perspective.
From a human perspective, yes, the people actually involved, yeah. Because you're right, we're seeing all sorts of stuff about how it imploded and why it imploded. And mind you, I've seen some of the videos, and there's not a chance I would have got into something like that and gone under the water. But however, some people obviously, thrill seekers, I suppose, to some degree, explorers or people who are adventurers would do something like that. But yes, we need to look at the human aspect of this.
Yeah, so we can look at it from that perspective. But as soon as I heard that Paul Henry Nargilay had family in Cork, I was thinking of the whole story from their point of view. So it looks like he has 2 children in Cork, if I'm correct. I know he definitely has one grandson. So a few years ago, he came over to Cork, as far as I know, it was 2019, and gave a talk in UCC, and it was a fundraiser. So that must have been very interesting indeed. So it was all about his professional life and his work. So some of his little anecdotes relating to the Titanic were really nice. So he mentioned how some family members of those who had died aboard the Titanic wanted the site left untouched in memory of the dead, and others took a more grounded approach. And he actually recounted in this article the tale of being approached after a talk he gave by a woman who asked him, the question she put to him, she said, "My mother left her necklace on the sideboard in her cabin. Can you get it for me?" Oh,
no.
That's so lovely that...
Yeah, that'd be like looking for a needle in a haystack.
He didn't want to throw cold water on that straight away, pun intended, but it's certainly, I think that question moved him, no doubt. I'd say his family must have been really proud of him and how articulate he was. There was one sentence there that stood out for me. He was talking about how he was imagining the people on the deck and all the things he already knew about the Titanic and what was going through their minds. The question was put to him about how dangerous what he does was. And he said, if you're 11 kilometres down, if something bad happens, the result is the same. And he said, when you're in very deep water, you're dead before you realise that something is happening. So it's just not a problem.
The pressure would be immense. The pressure would be immense.
Yeah, there's something almost prophetic about it, though, isn't there? And
absolutely.
The journalist asked him, does he ever get scared? And he said the answer obviously is no. but that doesn't.
Why be
that
scared?
Doesn't mean he's never moved by what he sees. But that's kind of
It's a story certainly that's captured the world. Yeah,
it?
it's a story that's kind of captured the world, and there was a bizarre thing going on last week, and we discussed it last week as to why, 5 people had captured the world like that, when sadly we see so many people drown in the Mediterranean on a regular basis and it doesn't get as much attention in the news. And I think it was because the 5 people we thought might have been still alive, even though we knew in our heart of hearts there's not a chance. We thought they might have been alive, and it was this whole idea that if somebody gave you a book and said 5 people drowned, you'd probably just look at the first chapter and go, well, sure, I know the end. Whereas if they had your book and said there's 5 people trapped in a submarine, you'd probably read the whole thing in the hope that they might get out. So I think that's why it captured the world and that whole story. Anyway, there's an ongoing investigation into that particular story at the moment by the Canadian government as to why, or was there a safety record for that particular submersible, and I can't imagine there would have been. Anyway, formerly conjoined miracle twins from Cork who defy the odds to graduate from primary school paid tribute to their mum and the teachers this week. It must be very, very difficult. I've watched numerous documentaries about conjoined twins and how difficult life can be, but I suppose it's teamwork, and it has to be teamwork.
Yeah, so I suppose everyone feels like they know Hassan and Hussein in a way, and we can't believe that they're so grown up now.
I remember them coming back to Dublin Airport. Remember when they had the operation and they brought them back to what was it, Cork Shannon Airport? It would have been at the time. I remember it on the news, which seems like a while ago now. So that must have been a good while ago, was it?
Oh yeah, so they're 13 now.
Okay.
Imagine that, and if you see them in the picture now, they're just so grown up and handsome looking. But they were, as told by Liz Dunphy in the Irish Examiner, the formerly conjoined twins, they were given a minimal chance of survival. They thanked their teachers and their mum, who never gave up as they graduated from primary school. So their mother, Angie Ben Hafaf, said that in her wildest dreams, she barely imagined her miracle boys getting to this point. Mm-hmm. There was a 70% chance we would all die. That's how she put it. So it wasn't just the two lives at risk. There was 3. So that's what right. Was at stake.
Yeah.
Imagine the stressful months leading up to that time. So Hassan and Hussein Ben Hafaf, they were conjoined at birth and connected to each other from chest to pelvis, sharing some vital organs, and they had 1 leg each. And their humour seems to have got them through a lot of the difficult times, because no doubt between them they've had to endure a lot of operations and everything else. And sometimes when the other children would ask them, how come you've only 1 leg each, they would, I suppose they got sick of giving the same answer, and they started telling people, oh, it got bitten off by a shark in Florida. That was a terrible shark attack. Did you hear about that awful shark attack? So they pay tribute to their special needs assistants. So that's Ava Plixa and Nia Brown. And they've been instrumental in helping them thrive in the school they're in. So,
it's nice to hear a good story, isn't it? Like that, yeah, it is nice to hear a good story, and I'm glad they're doing so well as well.
Yeah, and that's Middleton Educate Together National School, because we must give them
Middleton National School, absolutely. Also, a Ukraine mother and her daughter spoke to the Echo about risking everything to return back to their home country, which of course is still at war. So why are they heading home? Of course, heading back to certain, possibly poverty and danger.
Yeah, this is the thing. Everybody talks about how easy people have it in Ireland, but not so much. I think Yulia and Violetta, their homesickness just was too strong for them, and they were saying that it was on a visit last Christmas. They saw Christmas trees in Kiev powered by cyclists on stationary bicycles, and that only served to make them all the more homesick. And although they felt they would be safer in Fermoy, Yulia and Violetta both made the decision to eventually return home to what remains a war zone. Now, that wasn't before the daughter completed her leaving cert. She's only 17, Violetta, so that was unbelievably important to her. And they were just thanking everybody in Cork for their kindness. And Yulia said that she was living in Fermoy, so she said, I've cried so much this week. I feel the Blackwater, the river there, is full of my tears. And she was wiping her eyes and pointing to the river across from the Grand Hotel in Fermoy as described here. So that's where she'd been living. And I just thought, that's the most beautiful line in the world, isn't it? The Blackwater is full of my tears. So that was
sad,
one of the most read stories in the Echo. Yeah, for sure. But hopefully, we wish them all the luck in Ukraine, all the luck in the world, and we really hope that they have a lovely life and things get better for them.
Yeah, I hope that all comes to an end and they can get back to their life, the people of Ukraine. Now, of course, on a lighter note, a Cork vet spoke to the Echo about how one of her patients exposed his owner's marital infidelities in the most epic way possible.
Okay, so introducing Suzanne Kelly. She was an absolute legend this week in the Echo, all the stories she had for us. So she's a veterinary surgeon in the Sunbeam, and she told us about her career today. She's worked in so many vets around the country. But she detailed one awkward moment that saw a dog expose, as you said, its owner's marital infidelity. So this dog wouldn't stop vomiting, so they're trying to figure out what was wrong with him. This couple, they were saying, we have to get him to a vet straight away. So they got him to the vet, to Suzanne, and the couple gave her permission to do a surgery on him. And it turned out that he had a pair of underwear stuck in his intestines. She calls them knickers here, which is what, yeah, well, I just can't say knickers.
Knickers is good,
underwear will say lingerie.
Shorts.
So, they opened him up.
Skimpies is what they used to call it years ago.
Okay, this is the skimpy. When they opened him up, they took them out before stitching him back together again. So what Suzanne always does is when a dog swallows anything, she puts it in a Ziploc bag and gives it back to the
owners in case it's important, of course. Yeah.
So
and to show what the dog has swallowed.
I shouldn't be laughing. Yeah, exactly. So it might have been, the dog might have been trying to do a good thing. He might have been trying to cover up the infidelity by getting rid of the evidence. I'm not sure.
I know what you're coming to. You're coming to these skimpies where it belong to the wife or the girlfriend, clearly.
Yeah, so would you believe that Suzanne handed the Ziploc bag back to the wife and said, this is what he swallowed. It's a pair of underwear. And the lady just stood there and said, those aren't my underwear. And it would have been okay, only for the husband went bright red. So they knew straight away. And she was trying to take a step back, and she was saying, they probably just look different. If you put them in the wash, you'll probably see that they're actually yours, and they always
they'll change shape and colour and they'll drop four sizes.
And she said, no, they're definitely not mine. They're definitely not mine. And Suzanne said in that moment she just didn't know whether to laugh or cry.
You'd want the ground to open up and swallow you, wouldn't you?
To laugh, yeah. Because when something like that happens, all you want to do is laugh, just out of complete nerves. But what she was telling me, and I was quite taken aback by this, she told me that this isn't uncommon, that she speaks to lots of vets, and she's not the first person who's found themselves in that awkward situation.
What, like used underwear are tasty for dogs or something like that? They're attracted to them or something?
Oh yeah, they swallow all kinds of things, she told me.
Because it might have the owner's scent on them. Well, it wouldn't in that case. It didn't have the owner's scent on them. It had the mistress's scent on it.
I don't think they're picky. She told me that one of them ate a baby's nappy, a baby's dirty nappy.
Oh, jeez.
Do you know what it is? It's anything that has any kind of like, she was saying that like a baby grow was eaten because it had like crisps or some kind of a
food
stained
attached
baby
to it.
food.
Yeah.
Food attached to it. So a nappy, a bra, fireworks, tampons, everything. Those are everything she mentioned that the dog swallowed. So
I imagine
we have to do.
open the dog up and a tampon hanging out of a dog. I can just see it now.
I know. It would be interesting. She must always be curious about what she's gonna find. But
I knew a dog that had to go to the vet because one of the kids has shoved a soldier up the dog's arse. That's the truth of God.
Well, that's a terrible thing.
You know the little
isn't
toy
it?
soldiers, little plastic ones. So the dog was in pain. They thought the dog had worms because he was rubbing his bum off the ground all the time, and he was in awful pain. And they brought him to the vet, and the vet said there's something in there. So they got the tweezers and whatever else they used to get the bum open, and they pulled out this little German soldier, complete with gun in hand.
God.
The child had shoved it up the dog's arse.
You feel like when you think of all the things you did when you were small, you just oh gosh, you look back and think children are so cruel.
Well, Sarah, I've never shoved anything up a dog's bum. In fairness, no.
That's not even the worst story. Yeah, but you did set a bee's nest on fire.
I did, yeah.
A wasp's nest.
Yeah, you remember. So you have a good memory, haven't you?
Yeah. I bring them all. I bring all these things up. Like people who have arguments. I'll bring something up from 8 years ago or something because they have a great memory. But do you know that's not the even the wildest story that Suzanne had?
What was the wildest one?
Okay. You'd never ask. So,
I'm now asking, and all our listeners are sitting there with bated breath going, Sarah, tell us the wildest one.
Saying whichever, just shut up, yeah. So this reptile...
Should we go to a break before you tell them?
Oh, are they going on that long? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking, should we leave them in suspense or something like that?
Yeah.
No, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I could go for it. Yeah. So there was one time she opened up about how she took her life in her own hands after coming into contact with this 10-foot epileptic python who made a surprise visit to the clinic where she works, right?
Yeah. So
let me tell you about the days leading up to this. So the reptile was just one of the patients treated by her. And this was one of her so-called bad days at the office. This would be a bad day at the office for Suzanne. So there was a client who phoned her who had brought other pets to her before, and she explained to her that she had a snake at home who was experiencing a lot of seizures, and he had problems with his brain and needed to be put to sleep. So this isn't something any vet can do. If you're putting an animal to sleep, you want to make sure it's humane and peaceful, and it's very important that you know what you're doing, obviously. So the vet who normally looked after exotic animals, he was away on holidays that day, and she couldn't leave an animal suffer because she takes an oath, they take an oath not to do that. So it was an emergency, and she rang the exotic vets in Bray to find out how to euthanize a snake. And she learned how to visualize the heart and sedate him and everything else, and they both assumed that the owner of the snake was talking about a corn snake. They're skinny and harmless.
Skinny, wiry ones, yeah.
And she was still out of her comfort zone at the thought of euthanizing a snake in the first place.
Yeah.
And didn't think to ask what breed it was. When she entered with a snake, the owner that is, when she entered with a snake that was 10 foot long, it was pretty obvious what it was.
It wasn't a corn snake, that's for sure, or an earthworm.
So she thought she recalled how staff at the clinic reacted upon seeing this giant reptile. So the nurse
fear was probably the one thing that was how they reacted, I imagine.
Yeah, the snake took up the entire consult room and it was thrashing about, and at this point everyone had legged it.
Well, it was having like an epileptic seizure.
Yeah. So she had to do what she was told to do for the small snake, but multiply it a few times and just hope to God that the python didn't kill her.
So how do you find? I mean, I don't even know how you'd find, because you have to obviously inject it with whatever it is they inject to make them go asleep. I'm assuming you have to find a vein. How do you find a vein in a python?
I wouldn't know that now.
No. But she obviously looked it up, and she obviously had to multiply the dose by whatever it was, because the corn snake would be a small dose of whatever it is they give them. She obviously had to multiply it by God knows what.
And they all just left her there.
With the python.
What they said to her, as much as we love you, we're just too scared.
You can look after that one on your own, so yeah.
yeah. So she said she could remember staying there after hours doing a post-mortem on the snake while everyone was at home and enjoying their evening. It was a bizarre experience, she's probably thinking, how did I get here? But she's glad the python didn't have to suffer.
No, at least it died with dignity and had a peaceful ending. The poor python. Anyway.
And she delivered a 2-headed calf. Okay, that's the end.
A 2-headed calf?
Yeah.
And where is the 2-headed calf now? Is it dead?
Will I tell you what happened? Do you have time?
Yeah, I have time. Go on.
You can cut me out. So when she was doing farm veterinary, she visited this old man to deliver a calf, and he said it was twins, but he added that they felt very strange. And when she put her hand in, she could feel another head. And she suspected it was twins because they can get tangled up and you don't know which leg is coming from where. But then she figured out it was a 2-headed calf. And at that moment, these 2 young fellas came along, and she thought they were relatives of the old man. So she got them to help with the cesarean. And she was getting one of them to grab a bucket of water, and the other one was doing something else. And it turned out afterwards that they weren't related to the old man at all. And they were just selling lines for their local GAA.
They were just your randomers.
Yeah.
Delivering a 2-headed calf in the middle of the countryside.
Yeah, so she said this was a freak thing to happen, and the farmer had made the decision then not to resuscitate them because he wasn't sure what kind of a life they would have.
No, they would have been just a freak, sadly.
Yeah, so they would have just been alive for a few minutes. But yeah, what a story, isn't it?
I wonder with a 2-headed calf, which brain controls things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What I was wondering, I was trying to explain it to one of my colleagues at work, and I said, so it was 2 heads and 1 body, but they had 2 souls. And they were going, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's nice. No, that's nice, Sarah. Don't mind your friend. That's actually a nice thought. But I'm thinking more like 2 brains, and 1 brain controlled the back legs and 1 controlled the front legs. So then they'd have to talk to each other and go, okay, your turn, move your legs. Okay, your turn, move your legs. Okay, your turn, move your legs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder, has there been...
Or one head would say to the other... One would say to the other one, my bum is a little bit itchy. You wouldn't mind wagging the tail for us there, would you? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They'd have to communicate.
And trying to imagine it. There's you hear a fair bit about 6-legged cows as well.
You're now meandering now. You're going off.
No, I'm not. Suzanne delivered a 6-legged cow, and that one survived and lived a lovely life.
With 6 legs.
Yeah. Gosh, they removed 2 of the legs.
Oh, they removed 2. I was going to say, I could see it galloping around the field with the 6 legs. It's awkward enough, I'm sure, to run on 4. Sarah, you're a world of knowledge, Sarah. That's all I can say. A world of knowledge. 6-legged calves and 2-headed calves, and people with dogs with knickers in their stomachs, pythons going to sleep in dignity. You're just a word of knowledge.
Yeah, Suzanne Kelly, we salute you.
Yes, we must get Suzanne on the air to chat to us someday as well. She can tell us even more stories of madness. Listen, thank you very much indeed, Sarah. That's been lovely. Listen, thank you very much indeed, and I shall talk to you next Monday.
Okay, bye.
Real people, real opinions, real talk radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic.